And we back, baby, with another reflection on the Daily Vedantic, and this one is going to get a little spicy. This Vedantic truth is likely going to ruffle a lot of feathers, especially for people that have had and have been approaching a meditation practice for years, where they're very attached to it. For many people, it becomes a social signal, a virtue signal, that they meditate. And as a disclaimer, meditation is as broad of a term as sports. There are 1,000 ways to do it, and anybody could come up with a brand new one and call it meditation. But the classical definition of meditation that goes back 5,000 years plus, back to the 4 oldest philosophical textbooks in the world, the seat of Eastern philosophy, the Vedas, Dhyana meditation. That is very specific, and it is anchored by the Sanskrit term ananyachinta, no other thought. Dhyana meditation is the concentration on a single thought to the exclusion of all other thoughts. Concentration on a single thought to the exclusion of all other thoughts. This, and it's similar to the episode that I just did on humility. Meditation, in the classical sense, is not a practice. It is the result of practice. Anyone can sit down, breathe in and out, let their mind wander every 2, 4, 6 seconds, bring it back to their breath. And that is attempting to meditate. That is not the capacity to focus on a single thought to the exclusion of all other thoughts. That's as simple to describe as the fact that every 2, 4, 6 seconds, the mind is wandering. Bench pressing 500 pounds is not sitting on the bench, lying down, putting your hands on the bar, wiggling back and forth, attempting to lift it, not lifting it, but doing it for 20 minutes and then walking away being like, bench press 500 pounds every day. Bench pressing 500 pounds is bench pressing 500 pounds. It is lifting 500 pounds, not attempting to do it. It is, and it can be so helpful to sit down at the ashram. There's 5 minutes dedicated every day in the evening, sitting down, going through every performative action to get us ready for meditation. But ultimately, it's a daily exercise showing us in those 5 minutes, and really all I need is about 30 seconds to see how little control I actually have over my mind. It's an exercise to show us how far we have to go, how much work we have to do before we can focus on a single thought to the exclusion of all other thoughts. How much work we have before we have control over the mind, instead of the other way around, the mind having its way with us. Dhyana meditation. That is the result of years or lifetimes in terms of the Vedantic approach. And there are many other approaches, but Vedantically, classically speaking, meditation is the result of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Listening, reflecting. I sometimes hate to use the exotic sounding Sanskrit terms, but they can be very helpful, especially when you map it to other times that you might hear it as you read different texts on Vedanta. But Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Listening, reflecting, and then experiencing. Sometimes defined as, it is sometimes translated as meditation, but that meditation is also the culmination of not just listening, reflecting, but experiencing through japa, through Ishtadevata, through mantra, through the ego elimination from a personal deity, be it Christ or Buddha or Ganesha. But working backwards from meditation, starts with Shravanam and Manana, listening and then reflection. And to offer the difference in degree between these. It's said that between listening and reflecting, reflecting is 100,000 times more powerful than listening. Hearing a cool concept, hearing something that stops you in your tracks without reflection is basically meaningless, because reflection, according to Vedanta, is 100,000 times more powerful than listening, than reading something powerful once, reflecting on it. There should be, as Swami will often say, 20% of our time on the listening, the reading, 80% of our time on the reflection on what was heard or what was read. Then you have, after reflection, experiencing. Experiencing is 100,000 times more powerful than reflection. The example I always give is the experience of surfing. 100,000 times more powerful than reflection, than visualizing it. Visualizing it, closing your eyes, imagining some tip that someone gave you and imagining what you would do in that scenario with that wave. That can be really powerful. It's 100,000 times more powerful than just hearing that tip once. The one I always think about is Joseph, one of my Vedanta teachers, the co-host of Yoga for Your Intellect. Phenomenal teacher. And he would tell me for years, he's like, get low and go, baby. Get low and go. And I would just, it never clicked. I had no idea what was it? Why do you keep saying get low and go? I almost had that wave because I could have had it if I paddled further, or if I, one more time, if I had popped up sooner, so whatever it is. But then I got low on a wave, and oh my God, the speed that it generated. I was like, that's why he and others say get low and go all the time. Oh my God, just clicked. Reflecting on it was more powerful than just hearing it once or twice, but experiencing it 100,000 times more powerful. Experiencing a controlled mind 100,000 times, if not more, infinitely more valuable than reflecting on the virtues of a controlled mind, the values, the benefits, the usefulness of a controlled mind. Certainly much, much, much more valuable than just hearing about controlling the mind or self-control. So, meditation. How can that be the result of practice? Well, I will say in the timeline of spiritual evolution, meditation is the last thing we do before enlightenment. It is the last thing you do before you set a record on the bench press. It is as rare as that. According to Vedanta, it's 1 or 2 a generation reach that. 1 or 2 a generation reach that, and yet it is all of our natural states. We are all destined to also reach it. This is part of the fun, paradoxical nature of this whole philosophy. It says there is no one other than you, so you are the only one to reach enlightenment. It is a projection of our minds to imagine, to project out that anyone else has reached it, is going to reach it, is trying to reach it. There is only you to worry about, to think about, to work on, to move towards that enlightenment. But it still is a helpful convention to show how rare it is. 1 to 2 in a generation reach that. That means 1 to 2 in a generation can actually meditate, in the classical sense at least. Focus with ease on a single thought to the exclusion of all other thoughts. Now, there's a whole lot of benefit of working your way up to bench pressing 500 pounds. Whole lot of benefit to you, to your community. That strength has a whole lot of benefit to yourself at 150, wherever you're starting, 100, 200, 300 in this metaphorical parallel. Wherever you're starting, that increase in strength is incredibly useful to you and your community. This knowledge, our development, our spiritual development is incredibly useful all along the way. But to meditate, the classical sense, Dhyana meditation, the classical version that we think about in our minds of someone sitting quietly, focusing. That classical definition isn't just to sit quietly, sit in the lotus position, focusing on the breath or focusing on a mantra. It is not to sit on the bench for 20 minutes every day with your hands on the bar, attempting to bench press 500 pounds. Meditation, like bench pressing 500 pounds, is either you can do it or you can't. And if you can't, it's a great reminder. Even if you do it 5, 10, 20 minutes a day, it can be a great reminder. And sitting in stillness is a beautiful practice, by the way. Beautiful in its own right. In a similar way, there is a difference between attempting to focus effortlessly and continually on a single thought to the exclusion of all other thoughts, and the ability, the capacity to actually do so. Like I said, keep up the attempts, because they can be valuable, and sitting in stillness can be valuable. I prefer walking meditation, where I'm aiming to be aware of everything that's around me, within me, not trying to feast on the future, think about the past, but cultivate immense awareness of what's within me, what's around me as I'm walking, bringing the mind back to that awareness. It's a great preparation. It's a great way to empty the mind, to strengthen the intellect, to get the mind under your thumb, so to speak, in preparation for the real thing. But it is not the real thing, according to this philosophy at least. The real thing is quite singular, and it is extremely explicit. And like the 500 pounds, you either can do it, or we're all just working our way up to doing it. And when you can do it, the implications are damn near infinite, because like I said, it's the last thing we do. Culmination of life's work, of lifetimes of work, leading to this last step. That right in between the mantras. Perhaps the mantra might be, for an individual, might be Om. And in between the mantras, Om, 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 while sitting in stillness, quietude, being able to sit, repeating this mantra with the ability to focus on the Supreme, on the mantra, with the ability, the effortless, continual ability to focus on a single thought, mind completely controlled to the exclusion of all other thoughts in between the mantras. As this philosophy says, at least, in between Om and Om. At a certain point in that silence, the individual is dissolved. The ego is completely eliminated, and they attain moksha, liberation, realization, enlightenment, oneness, non-duality, realization. And that is the result of practice. It is not a practice. It's not something you pick up in a 45-minute session with coworkers at some seminar. It is the culmination of a lot of work, a lot of intention, but it is a capability which all of us have. That is meditation. And that is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.